This is the ESB 2026 player rankings. Today, for first baseman, our top 10 first basemen in Major League Baseball heading into the 2026 campaign. And we shuffle the deck a little bit. This time, Keith's joining us. We have Keith here. We have Joe here again, who's been our stalwart throughout all these countdowns that we've done so far, these rankings here. And your boy Rich here for first baseman today, gentlemen. So, Keith, thanks again for joining us. As we mentioned before, we've expanded our voters, Keith being one of them, Sierra another one. So shout out to Sierra from afar. But, Keith, really do appreciate you hopping on and talking first base with us tonight.
Yeah, always a joy to jump on with you gentlemen and the ladies. Hopefully she jumps on soon. I can't wait. First base, really simple position, honestly, kind of splitting hairs at some point, but there's some fun names to talk about, so we'll see how everyone feels about the position. But yeah, let's do it.
This is how everybody felt about the position last year, and obviously Joe was with us for last year's rankings at first base. And, you know, we've seen a mix of that same five first basemen at the top, you know, Freeman, Harper, Guerrero, Olsen, Alonso. But with a couple of breakout performances we saw in 2025, you kind of wonder if that deck's going to get shuffled a little bit more. I guess we're going to find out shortly. But let's get into it. We're going to have no further ado, but let's get right into our top 10 list for 2026 for first baseman. And we're going to kick things off with number 10. And our number 10 is a newbie. It's Michael Busch. Michael Busch, what a year he had for the Chicago Cubs. 261, 343, 523 slash line with an 866 OPS and 34 bombs out of the lefty Michael Busch with the Chicago Cubs. Then at number 9, a guy who's been on our list several times, number 10 last year, actually moved up in the rankings at number 9. That's Vinny Pasquantino, the Pasquatch last year. Launched 32 homers, career high for him, 113 RBIs for him. Also 798 OPS to supplement the power numbers there. Vinny Pasquantino, number 9. And in the number 8 spot, a guy who just can't get out of this damn 8 spot, Josh Naylor. Naylor, again, another solid. And Josh, one of the surprising numbers, you know, outside of, you know, just being a high batting average guy, a decent OPS guy, he's also stealing bags. Like, didn't even think Josh had this dog out there, but he stole 30 bags in 2025. So pretty impressive stuff for Josh Naylor here. Joe, Keith, when we look at these three here, Joe, we'll start with you, then head over to Keith. Anybody stick out to you that you want to touch on?
Listen, I know Keith here is going to talk about Vinny. I think Michael Busch is one of the most interesting guys on this list. He was top prospect for the Cubs. At one point, he was in the top 50 in prospects coming into 2024. So last year was really a breakout year for him. To have the 34 home runs and 90 RBIs, the Cubs got the power they've been missing in the heart of that order for the first time in a very long time, it feels like. So they're hoping that he can be the successor to Anthony Rizzo, who they've been trying to replace for several years over the past half decade. So, you know, 27 years old, we should start to see the best of Michael Busch in the next few years. And so him being 10 on this list, if he has another year similar to what he had last year, maybe improve some of those numbers, he could be a mainstay on this list for the next few years.
I'm a big Michael Busch fan. I like Michael Busch. I think personally, my preference was him just a little higher. But I think he's a fine player, and I think he's an ascending player. And I like that a lot of people kind of count him out in LA doing great things in Chicago. Love Josh Naylor. He's actually stole 30 bags, like my man Rich said. I feel like what he did for two different organizations last year and going into the playoffs, I kind of have a lot of respect for Josh Naylor. I like the way he plays the game. So I think 8 is a great number for him. And I'm actually rooting very, very hard for him to continue to ascend in the league. Now, I have an issue with number 9. I want to just make it very clear that for me, Vinny Pasquantino is he's very fun. I think he's an awesome follow on Twitter. I genuinely do enjoy the player. I absolutely do. But this if his name was Vinny Donaldson or Vinny Jones or anything other than Pascantino, which is an awesome Italian last name. Shout out my Italian brothers, because he would not be as loved as everyone. I just don't see the phenomenon. If you compare Vinny Pascantino to a guy who didn't make this list, which is Spencer Torkelson, they performed at the exact same level almost last year. And I am not rooting for Spencer Torkelson to be a top 10 first baseman. I'm not. That's kind of not my spiel here. But I just don't know. Hey, I'm not here to judge other voters. I'm not. But I just think it's more of a fan favorite situation here. You could even argue Michael Busch ahead of him. Depending on how you view it, you can slice it that way. I think Vinny Pascantino could be a top 10 first baseman. I genuinely just don't see it. I think Taylor is significantly better, and I just don't think he's a top 10 first baseman. Again, I'm a big fan. He went up in the consensus here, and I don't know what he did truly to go up. I really don't. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll debate it even further.
Well, we want to look back on that other slide of players here. And, I see one at number 9 that didn't have a 2025. I see one at number 6 who had a really bad season in his debut year with Houston. So it could just more be, some guys are just poor performers, had poor 2025s and lost their spots on the list, where Vinny. So listen, and great point on Torkelson. Never really saw it that way. But Torkelson just one homer short of Vinny Pasquantino. When it comes to, if we're going to look at just traditional stats here, yes, Pasquantino's got him beat on homers and RBIs, homers very slightly. OPS, just a 9-point differential between the two. Extra base hits, not so far off overall. I mean, Torkelson had 27 doubles, 1 triple to the 31 homers. Pasquantino, 33 doubles, 1 triple, 32 homers. I'm not trying to do the math right now, but it's very, very close. So that's a very good observation there. And maybe that's got to be more love for Spencer Torkelson or a little less love for Vinny Pasquantino. We'll figure that out going into 2027 if there's a list to even do that year. But let's move forward. We'll move forward to the next 3 on our list. And Joe, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Yeah. So number 7 on this list, and debuting on the first baseman's list for the first time is none other than Rafael Devers. After being traded from Boston to San Francisco, he's not playing third base anymore. Matt Chapman's playing third base, and they're not going to replace him there. So he's going to play first base primarily this season in an attempt to make him into a first baseman. So we'll see how that goes. Last year, 35 home runs, 109 RBIs combined with the two teams, 252 with 372 on base percentage. The average dipped a little bit from his usual, but the on base percentage has gone up a little bit. We'll see how a full season in that ballpark turns out for Rafael Devers. Number 6 is a name almost everybody is very well familiar with, and that's Bryce Harper. The Philadelphia Phillies first baseman has moved down. He was the number 2 spot for us last year. He is now the number 6. After a year, he hit 27 home runs, 75 RBIs, a 261 average, which is about a 20-point dip from the year before. His on-base percentage also dipped about 20 points. He slugged under 500 basically for the first time in a very long time, since 2016. If you want to split hairs, 2018. So he's more towards the back end. He's going to be 33 this year. It's curious to where Bryce Harper is going to be, if he's going to continue to trend downwards or not. And number 5 is probably the most fascinating name on this list. That's the A's first baseman, Nick Kurtz. Nick Kurtz last year in 117 games, mind you, had an enormously hot debut, 36 home runs in less than 425 at-bats. He had 420 at-bats. He had 36 home runs. He had 290 with 283 on base percentage and a 619 slugging percentage. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here. But certainly the most interesting name on this list is the reigning Rookie of the Year.
I love him. I I don't really have a preference where he falls on this list. I'm just glad he made it because it is his first true year. I think he is an elite bat, and I mean that. And it's very hard for me to say that early on in a player's career, but there is significant references with him and Jim Thome in my eyes. I see it. It's almost scary how much he reminds me of Jim Thome. So, I'm just happy for that, or for that fan base to have possibly a future superstar.
This is not a hard trivia question for the boys here. There was only one other player in baseball outside of Nick Kurtz to sport a 290 plus batting average, hit over 30 home runs, and have over a 1,000 OPS. Not really a hard trivia question. It's Aaron Judge. Nick Kurtz and Aaron Judge being in the same class, and Kurtz to do all this in his rookie season is quite incredible. So a hell of a leap, especially when it knocks off a big dog like Bryce Harper out of the top 5, who was in our number 2 spot last year. Although, yes, Harper did have a little bit of a fallback in 2025, but Nick Kurtz is Nick Kurtz. Regardless, Nick Kurtz is on that trajectory where we could be talking number 1 first baseman in all of baseball as soon as next year. That's how good of a season Kurtz has had. So let's see if he can repeat that success moving forward in years future. So from that, we're going to get to our next 3, our number 4 through number 2 positions. And actually, we're going to throw this over to Keith to intro those 3 players. So go ahead.
Let's do it, man. Coming in at number 4, Mr. Copy and Paste, because every single year, this guy is, in my humble opinion, one of the very, very best at his position. Matt Olson at number 4 for the 2026 player rankings. Coming in at number 3, moving up 2 slots, Mr. Orange and Blue no longer. Now, Mr. Orange, Black and White, Pete Alonso, soaring up to the top 3 of the first base charts for the 2026 player rankings at first base. And at number 2, falling out of the top ranking first baseman for the ESB player rankings, is none other than Freddie Freeman, future Hall of Famer himself. Gentlemen, before I begin my soliloquy on this, your thoughts on this real quick.
Yeah, my thing, I'm drawn immediately to Freddie Freeman off the number 1 spot. Understandable at his age. He's in his age 36 season. Last year, 24 home runs. He had 295. The thing with Freddie that you have to remember, almost like the great starting pitcher, if you need one person with your life on the line to take the best at bat possible, Freddie Freeman might be above anybody. And that's saying a lot. And so I know he's declining. I know you can't expect 160 games from him every year like you could for many, many a year. I know he's probably not going to hit 30 home runs again. I know he's probably not going to hit 45 doubles again. I know he's probably not going to hit 325 ever again. But at the same time, the sum of the parts is greater than the individual pieces. And so for me, he is still, without a doubt, one of the only players in Major League Baseball I would not even sweat coming up in the most important at-bat of the season. And that's why Freddie Freeman, for me, is still ahead of Pete and Matt. And I love Pete, but that's why I still have Freddie ahead of them.
I had to look back. Yes, this is the first time Freeman has dropped out of the number 1 spot out of our player rankings. This is our 4th annual year of doing this. So quite the accomplishment for the number 1 spot, the new number 1, who we'll get into shortly. But, Keith, as much as I really want to get into Pete Alonso, I mean, this is your guy. This is your guy. This is Joe's guy. He's in a different type of orangish uniform. And, this is one of his highest spots, landing here at first base at the number 3 spot here with Pete. Another great slugging season for him, but I really want to get the thoughts of the Mets fans here on Pete Alonso.
Well, Pete Alonso had the luxury of what is probably the 3rd best batting spot in baseball. That's what I like to call it, and that's batting behind Juan Soto. You could probably argue Ohtani, Judge, however you want to split it, and then the 3rd best one is batting behind Juan Soto. And what did we see? We saw a really, really good year by Pete Alonso. I think it was one of his better offensive years as a New York Met. You could argue maybe his best, depending on who you ask. He didn't hit the 40 home run mark, but he came pretty darn close. He was also a very, very, very important bat early on. He pretty much kind of carried the team early on, respectfully, as the team kind of figured itself out. So it sucks. I have opinions for days on this situation that it'll turn into a Mets pod, and we're not here to do that. I just want to focus on what the ranking is right now. And personally, I personally think I would have ranked Pete Alonso. Like, I think this is a great ranking for him. I think a top 5 ranking is absolutely fair. For me, though, I think Freddie falling out of the 1 spot is fair. I just don't think falling out of the 1 spot by 1 slot is, like, for me, accurate, respectfully. I would have had Matt Olson a little higher. I think Matt Olson is probably the best all-around first baseman here. You could even argue Matt Olson should be the best, depending on who you ask. I mean, I don't necessarily feel that way, but Pete Alonso, I kind of wish him all the best in Baltimore. I feel like it's going to translate. He's in a really good lineup. I think the ballpark works for him. Now, will he take the reins as the leader because he got paid really well, and they're going to expect the world from him. See, we know what we got. Me and Joe understand the positives with Pete, the negatives, and all in the in-between. So will he repeat that number 3 ranking next year? He has all the talent in the world to do so. We'll see. I expect Freddie Freeman to kind of take a little bit more of a step back. I think he is on the trajectory slightly similar to what Bryce Harper is. They both are nursing some little bit of injuries throughout the middle of the year, which kind of keeps their offensive numbers back. But Matt Olson keeps ticking. So I think Matt Olson is going to be in the top 5 once again next year. But all in all, I think Pete Alonso earned it's nice to see that he earned a top 3 slot, and I wish him all the best. Hopefully it all works out, and bygones be bygones. It's a business at the end of the day. So all the best to him. And will we move on, right?
Yeah. And Joe, do the honors, man. The number 1 first baseman headed into the 2026 season.
And the number 1 first baseman is none other than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Last year, not a great year from power number perspectives. In 156 games, he had 23 home runs, 84 RBIs, 292 average, which is still pretty good, 381 on base percentage, but a sub 500 slugging. The difference with Vlad is his postseason was one of the most memorable postseasons of all time. He had one of the all-time great series against the Yankees. He had 600 in that series against the Yankees. In the postseason, he had 8 home runs, hit 397, and won the ALCS MVP. And I think a lot of people kind of realized how good this guy actually is when he is focused and locked in. Just signed a record extension for a first baseman. So still only 26 years old. And it's easy to forget how young he is. So I think when we're looking forward in this, mixed with the fact that he's had some great offensive seasons, even a down year or quote unquote down year last year, he still hit 296. He's the kind of guy that once he turns it on can be the best offensive player in the sport. No disrespect to Judge or anybody else, but can go through stretches where he just absolutely carries the team like he did last year. So that's why he's number 1 right now. And I expect that this year might be his best year he's ever had.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to Vladdy, and he had a great 2025. He's had a great couple of seasons his last couple of years, but like what he did in the playoffs, it took him to another level. And I think without that playoff performance, you probably still find that argument for another first baseman to be up there. But I think that put him in a different threshold where it's like, all right, now he's doing it under the biggest spotlight. So Vlad, deservingly so in that number 1 spot. And as we see here, Michael Busch, Vinny Pasquantino, Josh Naylor, Rafael Devers, Bryce Harper, Nick Kurtz, Matt Olson, Pete Alonso, Freddie Freeman, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is your first base list for the 2026 season. And then let me get to my favorite part of this. Guys, I call it the money slide for a reason. Let's take a look at how the individual rankings shook out here. Vladdy across the board. Very interesting why Corey still stuck with Freddie Freeman at the top. Unfortunately, we're not going to have that conversation with him tonight. But we'll have that conversation sometime. Nick Kurtz, a lot of love there by Keith and Tom. And, looking back and really looking at Nick Kurtz, again, I think it was more for me why I have him at 7 compared to where he is higher in other lists here. I still was looking at these veteran players for what they are, still being as consistent as they usually are. I think Nick Kurtz, give me one more year. Give me one more year of this. And I think Kurtz is at least up to that top 3, maybe number 1, as we mentioned earlier. But Keith, you look at these individual rankings, anything stick out to you?
Oh, I mean, I just want to be clear. I think Nick Kurtz, I think it's real sensitive when you talk about Nick Kurtz because, like, I clearly, me and Tom love him, and even Joe to an extent, he has him 5th. So does Corey. But even if you and Sierra have him at 7th, the fact that he's there, to me, that's all that matters, right? Yeah. I think he belongs at bare minimum top 5. But you put him at 7, it's fine. I could totally understand why people want to see another year. I get it. Why? You could see kind of, if you take a step back, you kind of see Alonso's kind of similar. I and Tom were the lowest on Freeman, so it's weird. I agree with Tom here, but a little bit of this slight disrespect for Matt Olson, which is fine. I'm an anti-Braves fan. The Pascantino shit again, man. Like, listen, how is Pascantino better than Rafael Devers? I don't know. How is Pascantino
Nick Kurtz?
Even Josh Naylor. My thing here is, like I did in the pitching episode, I am very big on guys who grab the opportunity and you see a different side of the player or a brand new element of the player. We saw that with Vlad in the playoffs, right? Vlad kind of mirrored what we've seen from Freddie Freeman in the past with the playoffs. So everyone except for Corey fell in love with the fact that Vladimir Guerrero snatched that number 1 slot, and we all were mostly okay with that. And then, I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs for the most part, but Pascantino does not have better numbers than Devers. Josh Naylor stole 30 bags, went to a brand new team, and almost took them to the World Series. Like, if anything, I probably was a little bit lower than Naylor, but I just felt Devers' offensive output was better. I actually think maybe I was a little bit too kind with Harper, thinking back at it now. And honestly, too, like Michael Busch probably deserved a little bit more love, honestly. He's kind of relatively around that 8-9 range, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But I got 2 Yankee fans here voting for Ben fucking Rice, who doesn't even play first base. Like, what are we doing? Come on. Joe, I need you here.
No, listen, I can't go crazy because Rice is 10 on each of those lists. But I agree. We don't even know if he can actually play the position yet. I would agree with you there. The Pascantino over Kurtz thing, I can't get on board with that. Devers, I think the problem with Devers is twofold, right? Like, he's never played first base until last year. And not only that, he showed a lack of motivation to learn the position when he got to San Francisco.
That's a valid point.
My problem is I don't want to have Devers too high, and we're 4 weeks into the season, and Devers has basically given up playing first base, and he's back to a full-time.
That's a very good point.
That is my only apprehension with Devers. Otherwise, I could have Devers ahead of Naylor. I can have Devers ahead of Harper because of his offensive prowess. My problem is Devers seems unmotivated to be a team player, even when he got to San Francisco. So I question whether or not he's actually going to remain on this list going into May and June.
Yeah, and it was, again, one of those players. We did our DH rankings before this, and we talked about how certain players are in that role because right now they're projected for that. I mean, Devers could be easily a player that ends up as a primary DH, early into the season. But we were going based off of the projections. They have him listed at first base. So at this point, if you have him on your list, it's just really based on his offensive credentials and his offensive credentials alone. We don't know what his deal is going to be at that position this year. Mm-hmm. The Giants are going to have a very interesting right side of the infield, to say the least, but that's another story for another time. But this is it. your top 10 player rankings, and we'll throw that list up one more time for the 2026 season for first base. Keith, Joe, really appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much. We're going to wrap things up here with this edition of our rankings. So make sure to stay tuned and subscribe and hit that notification bell so it notifies you when the next player rankings is coming out. You can do that for us. I think that's a little bit easy. Check out our next player rankings. It's going to be coming up shortly. All right. Take care, folks.